Today, what we're going to do is we're going to explore how digital marketers and marketing leaders can best prepare themselves for a data-driven future. We're going to discuss some of the major skill gaps that exist in the digital marketing workforce, and we're going to dive into career advancement in digital marketing. You're going to have a great opportunity today to ask questions directly to our panel of experts, all of whom have been closely involved in the coursework development of our 6-month Melbourne Business School online digital marketing, analytics and strategy Career Accelerator. Right now, I'm just going to pop the link to our program page in the chat where you can download a brochure with more information on the Career Accelerator. And once you've downloaded the brochure, you can book a call with our enrolment advisors who can answer any more questions that you have about the program. Also, very excitingly today, just for today, we've got an amazing $1,000 Australian dollar discount off the program fee that's valid until the 5th of June. So if you book a call through the link that's provided today, you'll qualify for that $1,000 discount. So welcome again, everybody. Today, we've got an amazing 4 guests here to do a great panel discussion, and you'll have a chance to ask them some questions. If you do want to ask any questions at any time, please use the Q&A function on Zoom, and we will get to those at the end of the discussion. So I'm just going to go to our speakers to ask them to introduce themselves and answer the question, if you could learn any new skill, what would it be and why? So let's start with Lani.
Oh, first off the rank. Hi, everyone. I hope you can't hear my 3-year-old screaming in the background. He's usually asleep by now, but doesn't like it when mum's not around to put him to sleep. So apologies for that. Hopefully he goes down soon. If I could learn any skill in the world, now this is very random, but I actually love flying. And I've flown a glider before with help, but I would absolutely love to learn the skill of flying, just because I love travel and I just love being up in the sky, and yeah, just fly around the world all the time by myself. It would be great. Well, and with my family, but you know, flying would be my skill that I'd love to learn.
That'd be a very useful skill. Yeah. Great to meet you, Lani. Claire.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, excited to be here. I'm Claire Dupree. I'm based in Cape Town, South Africa, and I've been in digital marketing for about 15 years now, mostly in the startup space. To answer your question, I actually can't believe it, but Lani, I have always wanted to be a pilot. So I have this like weird love-hate relationship with flying. Like it terrifies me, but it just absolutely fascinates me. So I think I would also want to learn how to fly an airplane, but a Boeing. I want to fly the big stuff.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah.
And Claire, sorry, I might just jump in again and just say I didn't introduce myself properly and where I'm from. I'm actually from Melbourne, and I head up the excuse me, here he is, the strategy and research at a communications agency. Fantastic. So apologies for let the others go.
Yeah, soon to be airline co-pilot with Claire by the sounds of it. Yeah. Okay, Neil. You can go next, please.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Neil Percy, also from Cape Town, South Africa. Also, yeah, been in the digital space for about 17 years. On now focusing on the last 10 years on the measurement marketing side, and enjoy building teams. Built some cool teams in the past. My skill that I wish I had, I think it would be to say no to meetings on a Friday. I think that's something that I would love to be able to do. I haven't quite mastered it. I think I've done it once in the last year, which then could allow me to do other things that I enjoy doing outside of work.
I can teach you that skill, Neil. I've mastered that one.
Oh, you are on mute, Claire.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was going to do that at some point today. Yeah, that would be a great skill to have. The meetings, no meetings on a Friday. Please teach me to. Kyle, you want to jump in and introduce yourself?
Sure, no problem. Hi, everyone. I'm Kyle Byers. I've also been in the industry for about 15 years. Apparently, that's the magic number today. I'm a growth marketer. I've done growth marketing for companies ranging from early stage startups to Fortune 500 companies, agency side, in-house, and everything in between, you name it. Right now, I'm currently the director of organic search for SEMrush, and just loving life. It's such an exciting time to be doing this. In terms of the skill that I'd be interested in learning, I would have to say scuba diving. I really love snorkeling. I'm from Portland, Oregon in the US, where the water is typically pretty cold, but I actually now live in Italy. And so just seeing how much warmer the water is, frankly, we're spending a lot more time at the beach. And I would just love to try to scuba dive at some point.
Yeah, I think I might leave that one to you. I've got a bit of a phobia of going underwater like that, but yeah, great skill to have too. So yeah, looking forward to chatting to all four of you today about digital marketing and our Career Accelerator. Okay, we just got a quick poll for you. So there's going to be a poll in the chat. If you could answer the question, what brings you to this event? And remember, you can ask any questions at all for the panel, just using the Q&A function as well. So whilst people are just looking at the poll, let's get started with the panel. So I'm going to start with you, Kyle, as you're on my screen at the moment. So can you describe what a typical day looks like for you in digital marketing world?
Sure, yeah, no problem. So typically, I start off the day by checking my top priorities. I like to write down the day before the main goals that I want to accomplish on that day. And so typically it's not going to be any single big item, but instead the next step that I need to take in the initiatives that I'm pursuing. I really enjoy the getting things done method of writing down the next actionable step or even the next physical step that you need to take. And so I usually use that for my task management. Then, of course, I also look at my emails and Slack. I try not to do that first thing in the day, but I do, of course, need to do that fairly early on to make sure there's nothing urgent that's inbound. And then I also spend a lot of time in meetings. You know, I have a team of 17 full-time employees, as well as about 30 contractors. So I spend a lot of time in meetings and just working with the team and collaborating with other teams as well. I would say those are the main three things that I do throughout my days.
Have you ever managed to have a meeting-free Friday?
Yes, a meeting-free Friday for sure. I do tend to have at least fewer meetings on Fridays, maybe about once a month. It's a truly meeting-free Friday.
Yeah, that sounds like a good goal to start with. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Neil, can I ask you the same question? What does your typical day look like?
Yeah, also meetings. I like to start the day actually very similar to Carl in that I'm a big fan of the one thing, doing one thing and getting that done. I do have meetings with the team in the morning, my team, and then predominantly my day is really about spending time with the clients and helping them understand data, right? Helping them to be able to make decisions. So I spend a lot of time coaching and educating through that process. What I always try and go back to is ending the day off as like what has been done, and then what is similar to what Carl said, what we've done today and what needs to be done tomorrow. Trying to actually remove the stand-ups and trying to automate that. So we use a tool like Intercom to try and automate our processes to get the teams moving without too many meetings. So hopefully getting closer to that no meeting Friday.
Fantastic. Lani, can I ask you a slightly different question? So digital marketing obviously is an evolving industry and it's ever changing. How do you make sure that your sort of daily work remains effective and relevant? How do you keep up to date with all those changes?
Oh, it's a really good question. And I guess like my role is quite varied. So I work in a creative community.
Well, I think we may be just losing you, Lani, there for a second.
Types on a daily basis. So there's lots of different things that we have to do, or lots of things that we can do in order to stay up to date. And part of that would be going to seminars,
or that I'm going to all of the relevant kind of topics of conversation that are new, as well as obviously there's lots of trends websites and websites that I would look at daily as well and get my team to look at as well. And then we have a weekly meeting, and I should actually preface this with the fact that I'm on maternity leave at the moment. So I haven't actually worked for 7 months. So I'm trying to get my brain back into it as we speak. But essentially, I would run a team meeting weekly with my team, and we would share lots of information and knowledge that we've learned over that past week as well. And then we would also, because we're the strategy team, we also would do the same with the whole agency. So the agency is about 90 people, and on a Monday morning we would share some, interesting facts or topics or, things about the marketing landscape that we've learned, digital or not. So yeah.
Fantastic. Lani, I think we're just losing your video there. Hoping everyone still heard your answer, but I think your video connection may have lost, but I think we could hear you quite clearly.
Okay, good.
Okay, Claire, can I ask you a kind of a similar question, but on a slightly different theme? Like, there's a lot of talk at the moment about kind of new technologies like ChatGPT, etc., is kind of constantly in the news and on LinkedIn. Are there any kind of ways that you keep up to date about these sort of technologies that might impact your day-to-day life?
I think, it's the same sort of question that you asked Lani, like you say. What I tend to do is I've got a list of people who I consider to be kind of leading edge in the marketplace that I follow and curate on both LinkedIn and Twitter. And they're my go-to kind of resources for what's trending in terms of tech and platforms and, best practice. So I start there and I see what they're talking about, and then I might deep dive into a little bit of research. ChatGPT is certainly something that I don't think any industry is feeling immune to right now. So I am seeing that. But the truth is, in digital marketing, emerging tech is part of the game. I think it's something that every digital marketer has to be on top of every single day to figure out what emerging tech is worth our attention, and what of that should we put on the back burner, what should we pause, what should we wait on, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we can't seem to escape ChatGPT at the moment. Kyle, do you have any thoughts on these emerging technologies? Is ChatGPT worth the hype that everyone's talking about at the moment?
I would say yes, for sure. There are definitely some guidelines to pay attention to when it comes to ChatGPT. First, in terms of downsides. So first is it hallucinates, right? You can ask it for a fact and even ask it to cite its source, and it will give you a URL on a website that exists. The website exists, and the URL structure matches what the website actually uses. But you go to the URL and it doesn't exist because it just made it up. It just hallucinated the whole thing. So you have to be very careful to make sure that the outputs you get from ChatGPT are actually accurate before you use them or rely on them. The other thing I would say is that you also have to be very careful around sharing sensitive information with it. I tell my team, when you use ChatGPT, imagine you're not clicking the button to interact with it. Instead, you're clicking the button that says tweet. Imagine that you're just broadcasting everything you tell to it to the world, because that's kind of how it actually works. So those would be two caveats, I would say, in terms of being careful with how you use it. But setting those aside, ChatGPT can be immensely useful for brainstorming ideas, refining strategies, doing certain types of research, helping with your content creation. Very, very useful tool, absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I love the idea of treating it like you are publishing everything live. I think that that is a fantastic piece of advice that goes across lots of industries as well. Neil, are there any sort of emerging technologies that, aside from ChatGPT, that you think will have a significant impact on our day-to-day life in digital marketing?
Yeah, I mean, outside of ChatGPT, because we do use, I think we're using it almost on a day-to-day basis now. In my world, we're looking at technology around regression models and how to put all this data together. So when you're centralizing the data, what are you actually doing with it? And in the past, and currently, data scientists have played and will continue to play a role, but I think the speed at which you can get those models done now are increasingly getting faster and faster, which is exciting because it has been such an expensive process to get to try and centralize the data and then visualize it in a way that actually makes meaningful sense to the business and to the marketing team to find those insights. So that little piece around fast tracking data point to actual insight is quite an interesting space.
Yeah, absolutely. Lani, you mentioned that you're kind of currently on maternity leave. Is there anything that you've been kind of following from whilst you're on maternity leave that you think is going to be exciting when you get back into work?
Honestly, ChatGPT has been all the rage over here. So I've been playing around with it a lot. And it was funny because I was chatting to a friend of mine who's in consultancy. We had coffee and he's like, you've got to get on it. You've got to get on it. This is like a week after everyone was hyping about it. I thought, okay, it's like, it's going to change your job when you go back from maternity leave, so you need to be aware of it. And actually, one other caveat that I might mention around it is that it doesn't have up-to-date information beyond 2021. So if you're looking at prices or anything that you need up-to-date information on, it's just not going to be there as well. So that's another caveat that you need to be really mindful of when you're using it. But beyond that, my world is changing nappies and feeding a baby. So unfortunately, beyond having coffees with colleagues and that kind of thing, ChatGPT has been the biggest thing that I guess has come on my radar in the last few months, I suppose. Yeah,
it seems to be on everyone's radars. Yeah, you go on LinkedIn and it is the thing that everybody is talking about at the moment. For very good reasons, obviously. Okay, if we can jump now to kind of think about some of those skills and those important skills that are in high demand for digital marketers. Claire, what do you think are the top skills that are currently in high demand? And do you think there's any gaps at the moment in the digital marketing field?
I think the obvious one, and I'm sure Neil can actually weigh in on this, is data fluency. But it's not just data fluency, it's also just confidence with data. So I can speak for myself when, I was coming up the ranks as a creative marketer, a junior creative marketer, I had a narrative in my head that I wasn't good with numbers. Numbers and maths and data were never my strong suit at school and university, etc. So, and I'm seeing that in a lot of junior marketers coming up and even mid-career marketers, they're just not feeling confident with data. So they're willing to get their hands dirty. They can, they know how to get the data, but they don't really know what to do with it once they've got it. They don't know how to translate it into a meaningful insight for business impact. So I think data fluency is now a critical must-have skill for any emerging digital marketer.
Yeah, Neil, would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, all our clients will comment that they don't have the capabilities in-house they can't find that skill set. So, and they generally have to find someone who's got that talent and I guess interest in it, and then they'll coach and teach that person into that role. But maybe also to add, in terms of skill set, it's also what I've seen is this move from bottom of the funnel, what we call like capturing demand, into more top of funnel demand gen, and really this understanding, and it does play into the communication side. So being able to connect those dots from a data perspective and communicate it, but from brand into middle, into understanding to the point of purchase, that buyer, what's the intent, what's the buyer's intent at awareness, at a brand level, at consideration, and then moving into actually buying the product or the service, and being able to tell that story and communicate it across different teams, from sales to product to brand, CX, all of that, connecting those dots is critical. And I guess that does come with experience, right? And you have to start somewhere. I think Claire mentioned it the other day in a call, that it's like, we all know that like the T-shaped marketer, finding depth in one, but as your career grows, you actually need to turn it into a hashtag where you have multiple depths. I think it was Claire, that was you, I think, who mentioned that. And I found that was quite interesting, because you have to start somewhere, right? From a skill set, and then go deeper into understanding the customer journey.
Do you think, this is just an open question for everybody, do you think people sort of coming into digital marketing are still kind of scared of data? Is that something that it's still kind of a mindset that there is this fear of data? And how if they are, how do you kind of help them get over that?
Well, yeah, there's this expectation to make a decision off the data. And if you make the wrong decision, that's on, so it's being confident enough and having different lenses when looking at the data. A point is around expertise. So a lot of the time, what you need to find correlation in data. And I always say, like, expertise helps you understand whether that correlation exists or not, really exists or not. But yes, people are scared, but I think it's the more time you spend with it, obviously, the more it starts to make sense. So I think it's building that habit around something that also we do on a Monday with clients is have these ideation room sessions. So also getting the client equipped to look at data and make a decision off the data, which is a nice space.
Yeah.
Claire, can I build on something Neil just said there? We're talking about data as being the critical skills gap, but where Neil was going was actually the real critical skills gap, I think, is in decision making. So the confidence in your decision making, because as marketers on a daily basis, I mean, my job is about making decisions and making them fast. So we're moving at pace. Things are changing really, really fast. And the ability to make a decision and back your decision is really what separates a strong digital marketer from somebody else. So I think it's more about what does that data capability actually enable you to do? And that's make really, really strong, fast decisions.
And that's really interesting, Claire, because looking at the Australian market in particular, and when you look at the marketing gap in digital marketers, it really comes from the top. So it's all usually digital strategy, and all those kind of more senior roles are the ones that we lack the talent, because there's a lot of apologies with the noise. There's a lot of really senior marketers that haven't educated themselves in the digital space, and they're trying to do that now and trying to kind of build those skill sets. And then there's also the digital marketers coming up in the ranks, but we just don't have enough of them when it comes to leadership. So yeah, that's probably the biggest skill in a digital marketing sense in Australia, is more that decision-making space. So yeah, really, really interesting. And just on what you were saying earlier, Neil, about brand is really interesting to me as well, because that's where my passions lie. Because I see the importance of brand becomes first and foremost over everything else. Because if you don't have people that, understand your brand, whether it's conscious or not, because 95% plus of our decisions that we make are unconscious. So we don't even know that we've, related to a brand that we might have seen. But yeah, ultimately, I think digital marketing went in a space that was all about results, and it was all like quick, giving the short-term stuff. Whereas now we're seeing marketers sit back and go, actually, we really need to look at this from a long-term perspective. And that's where we'll see brand make a huge impact on the final action results, if you like, at the bottom of the funnel.
Yeah. Kyle, do you sort of agree with that in terms of the skills that you see are currently missing, or are there any others that you've kind of spotted as well?
Yeah, I think what everyone said about decisiveness when it comes to being a digital marketing leader specifically, that really is the clear, most important role of a leader. Really is, it's decisiveness, and it's also the ability to affect change within your team and also external to that. So motivating your team, guiding your team, coaching your team, and then working with other teams to make sure that you get the buy-in that you might need, for example, from the developers or senior leadership to give you the resources that you need to achieve your goals and push forward your initiatives. Those things are definitely important. Tying into that, I would say, would be proactivity and ownership. It's very easy for anyone to identify problems, right? What's much harder and what's much more valuable is also coming up with ideas for solutions. And then a step beyond that is having some ownership over executing on those solutions. Those things really set you apart if you want to climb the career ladder and actually become a digital marketing leader, and not simply an entry-level role. I would also say, open-mindedness and curiosity really factor into this. Having a growth mindset of, okay, I got to where I needed to be, but how do I get? What do I need to do to get to the next step? What does the company need? What skills are missing? How can I fill the gap that I see is there? And so those kinds of things really help. Also, just being able to see one or two steps ahead as opposed to what's just directly in front of you.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And So you obviously work with a team, and you're a sort of a leader on that team. If you were sort of employing someone, what skills would you look for in that person sort of wanting to start off in digital marketing?
Sure, it depends on the role, of course. Much of this is very specific. The things we were just talking about for leaders are much more general. But for someone who would be joining in a role that's not at the leadership level, if it's someone who's joining in SEO, of course, I'm going to be looking for those technical SEO skills. If it's someone who's joining in a content writing position, I'm going to be looking for their content writing skills. Something coming back to what I mentioned, though, about proactivity and really drive is something that I want to see in every single position that we hire for. The ability to really own a process, or at least the current work that you're doing, even if you're not necessarily looking to be a leader and you just want to be on a team and do good work. You can't do that without some form of feeling of ownership and pride in what you're doing. And so that's going to be true across really any role that you can think of in marketing.
And so Lonnie, if I can just bring you in to the kind of the Australian perspective as well here a little bit, what's the current sort of job market like for people looking to move into digital marketing?
It's definitely a skill set that is in need. So I think there's lots and lots of different jobs going, and what's happened, and I know we've talked a little bit about data, but what's happened probably in the last 5 to 10 years is marketing has fragmented, particularly in a digital sense. So we talk about, having data analysts and specialists in data specifically. We have strategists, and when I say strategists, we have digital strategists, we have creative strategists, there's so many different types, if you like, UX, CX. And I think what's happened is we've fragmented the marketing landscape so much so that there's ridiculous amounts of jobs. When I did my MBA a few years ago, I remember finding out that in Australia, within the next 2 years, and I think I did it, this was about 4 years ago, so it was a couple of years ago, that it was saying, I think by 2020 or something, that we needed 200,000 marketers extra that we didn't actually have in the country. And then COVID happened, and a lot of all the internationals disappeared, so they weren't doing the marketing roles, and we're only just getting those people back, and we're still really falling short in a skill set in a marketing sense across the board, but particularly in a digital marketing space, and we're really missing the kind of middle section, if you like, as well as the leaders in particular. Actually the juniors as well. It's across the board really that we need more people in general into the space. So yeah, the job market here is very fruitious, if you like. There's lots of different choice available to people to go into different areas here.
And I think that seems to be a worldwide trend as well, from what I've read and heard as well. Okay, so you've all had sort of some input into the digital marketing career accelerator. So just a very broad question to all of you: who do you think this career accelerator is suited to? Let's start with Claire.
I think the sweet spot here is for someone who has had exposure in a single domain of marketing, of digital marketing. So Neil was talking earlier about the T-shaped marketer. So it's someone who's been working in marketing or in a related role next to a marketing team, and they're quite familiar with marketing process and terminology. And now they're looking to step up into a broader generalist, I want to say the word leadership role, but you could probably also do this as an individual contributor, but they want to become that more general leader with a depth of understanding across multiple domains of digital marketing, and have that ability to connect the dots between all those domains, develop strategies, impact business decisions, work with executive stakeholders, more of that senior level gap that Lani was talking about.
Yeah, same question to you, Kyle. Like, you've contributed to. How do you feel this career accelerator would benefit people?
I agree with what Claire said. I would also say folks who are looking to change their career, who haven't really been involved in digital marketing yet, because the program does provide a pretty strong overview across a lot of different facets of digital marketing. And so it gives people a more in-depth understanding of things that they haven't yet seen, but it also serves as a great kind of survey course for all the different opportunities out there. Something that I think Neil mentioned before was, how fragmented the marketing landscape has become, or actually maybe it was Claire or Lonnie. I'm sorry, I don't remember who mentioned it, but just the fact that we have strategists of all different kinds now. We care about brand marketing across every level, even at the folks who formerly might have only cared about the bottom of the funnel. It's now important for them more than ever to understand how the brand impacts all those touch points also, and what those touch points are. So I think this program is great for folks who already have experience in marketing and want to broaden it out or deepen it, as well as folks who have never done really much in marketing at all, and they want to explore what it might look like.
Absolutely, absolutely agree. Neil, you share how you kind of contributed and what your thoughts are.
Contribution, yeah. So look, from my side, when building teams, right? So when you're building data teams, big data team from 30 people into an agency of over 100, you learn a lot. You learn what not to do and you learn what to do. And through that experience, I hope that, like, I search for frameworks, I search for standardization. And maybe just to your earlier question, in terms of the type of person wanting to do this course, I think it speaks to both. It's someone who's entering because they need some principles and frameworks in place, a good grounding, which this course will offer. And then also for that person who has got a depth of knowledge in a specific area, wants to remove that bias that they might have, because we all have certain biases, and build an understanding to interweave everything, that framework, those principles. How do we build standardization and process is key. So that's really, I would like to think that's my contribution, really learning from those mistakes when building teams in a very intense, fast-paced world, and looking for scale and repeatability, because that's what leaders are asking for. They're wanting that standardization. They just don't always know how to get there.
Yeah, interesting. I'm just looking at the poll results from earlier, and the vast majority of people are wanting to actually begin that journey, stepping into the role as a digital marketing leader. Lani, would you have any advice for them kind of wanting to do that, sort of making that first step into a digital marketing leader role?
Yeah, and I might actually just take just mold in the question here from Soraya from in the chat. I hope I pronounced that right, Soraya. Mentioning the idea of someone that's predominantly been in sales or a business relationship management working background and kind of moving into this role, I think is definitely transferable. Those skills are definitely transferable. And I would almost say you could go in so many different directions. My mind immediately goes into client service. In an advertising agency or a communications or a digital agency, you could work in a client service role very, very easily, because your role is essentially sales and relationships, and building those relationships. It's a bit of project management as well. And then from a marketing side, I think those skill sets are also transferable in that you're also doing that internally. So my experience working on in what we call client side in a marketing role was really around stakeholder management as well. So I think for anyone wanting to get into this industry or sidestep into this industry or to move into a more digital heavy marketing role, I would talk to as many people as you can, and just try and connect to people. Obviously, understanding that you do need to increase your skill set and your knowledge first and foremost. So doing a course like this is wonderful for that. And then obviously connecting with people where you can to try and get some more understanding of the landscape and the type of role that you would enjoy, because there are so many different roles at our fingertips these days. It's really just about educating yourself on which parts of digital marketing that you're interested in? Or is it that you want to become a hashtag marketer? I love that. And, work into that more senior role where you have to know the landscape that's beyond just digital marketing. You have to know about brand, and I think everyone should anyway. But yeah, I think it's just about trying to find out where your passions lie within the space. I think is really cool.
Yeah, I agree with the I love the hashtag. Hashtags there as well. Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone. We've got quite a few questions in the Q&A box, but just to remind people, if you've got any others, you can type them into the Q&A box as well. I'm just going to throw these out there, so whoever wants to answer them can jump in and do so. So there was one from Ellie who asked, I think this might be directed to Claire, could you recommend the sites that you find trends on? It might be Lani who was mentioning kind of trends and kind of innovations in digital marketing. Are there any good sites to go to?
I guess my first question would be, what type of trends are you looking to find? Because, we could be looking at trends in platforms or tech, or trends in tactics, trends in macroeconomic things. So I would first want to clarify that sort of thing. I use a bunch of different tools to identify trends. One that I'm particularly loving at the moment, I don't really want to be punting one particular platform here, but I use SparkToro. I actually use SEMrush a lot as well for my research. And then, like I say, I follow a lot of people on LinkedIn, people who are sharing content that I find interesting, and they're talking about trends, and I'll do my further research from there. So I prefer to go straight to the proverbial horse's mouth and see who's talking about what on LinkedIn in a live manner. I'm not a huge fan of scanning all the big blogs because I think they tend to run the same sort of clickbaity content. So I try and stay away from those and see what people are talking about on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
I would add to that industry reports can also be super, super useful. So, in the last 6 months or so, SEMrush put out the State of Content Marketing report for 2023, the State of Search for 2023. There are all sorts of reports like that, of course, that other companies put out as well, and also individuals. So those can be really helpful to see how things are changing. Many of those reports also show over time. It'll compare 2023 versus 2022 and 2021. And so you can see how these different trends are changing over time. The one other thing I would mention is you can look at keywords, what people are searching for. Look at, of course, SEMrush includes trends data, as Claire mentioned, but so does Google Trends. There are free tools that do it. We also have a free account. But in any case, you can look to see what people are actually searching for in a particular industry or in terms of marketing in general, and find out what those trends might be. So ChatGPT, TikTok, if you look at the charts for those, they just skyrocket. And guess what? The users are skyrocketing at the same time. So you can often get that information just a little bit faster than it might be reported on in the mainstream media.
Yeah. You can put in some SEMrush plugs. It's fine. We're very happy that SEMrush kind of content is being featured in our Career Accelerator. So yeah, that is no problem.
I might just add to that, if that's okay, Claire. I agree with you, Kyle. I think just finding out what people are looking at online is really telling. So, and you can go to just Google Trends or to you guys, that's awesome. And then beyond that, I like to look at cultural trends. So not just from a technology perspective, because technology is obviously really important. AI trends are really important, those types of things. But beyond that, I think it's really cool in a marketing sense to understand what's going on culturally. One of my favorite things to look at is the JWT top 100 trends that they release every year. It's an oldie but a goodie, and Mintel's a really good source as well. And if you've got a uni account, great, because it's really expensive. If you don't have it through work, so Mintel's also a really good source. And another website that I love, and it's probably not really for trends but more for case studies, is Work. So Work has some fabulous case studies of different marketing campaigns and things like that, if you like, that you can look at to find best practice and what works and what doesn't work in particular industries and things like that. So if you can get your hands onto a Work login, then I would highly recommend that too.
Excellent. Okay, we've had a question. It says, it's from somebody anonymous, but it says, will you be able to specialize in digital marketing after taking this course? Who wants to try and answer that one?
I don't mind jumping in. I don't know, specialize. I think the idea is, would you be able to work in digital marketing? The idea is, yes, you would be given a broad exposure to digital marketing, leadership, and use of data. So you certainly would be able to work in digital marketing. I think the term specialize becomes difficult in the digital marketing context, because when we talk about specialize, we often talk about becoming a single channel expert or one of those. So you would be capable of being that T-shaped digital marketer that we talk about. You'd have exposure to all of the different domains of marketing. You'd have confidence with data. You'd learn how to lead and operate a team, and recruit a team, even manage yourself as a leader. So it would give you that broad capability in digital marketing leadership, yes.
Yeah, which links to another question that's on there about which topics are covered in the Career Accelerator, which I think Claire has done a fantastic job of going through a lot of those there. Just a reminder though that you can, in the chat box, there is a link to the brochure with more details in. So if people want a more detailed breakdown of the Career Accelerator, you can click on that link in there as well. Okay, a question about video content. It says, with the increasing popularity of video content, what are some effective strategies for leveraging video marketing across different digital platforms? How can marketers create engaging video content on a limited budget? Who would like to have a go at that one?
I can't profess to be the world's foremost expert on creating video content, but one thing that I can definitely talk about is how you can spread your budget out in such a way that you maximize your existing resources. And when it comes to video, often what that means is repurposing. And so if you have a blog post that's done really well, or a white paper or a study or anything, a case study that has done really well, use that as kind of the outline of a script for a video and create a video that way. Consumers are also, especially in the B2C space, consumers react quite positively to hand-shot smartphone videos that are not in a studio. It doesn't have to be completely professional. It can be this very Gen Z friendly video that comes off as more authentic than something where you book out an expensive studio and spend all day shooting something. Just something that takes you a couple minutes or 30 seconds even to shoot on your phone can be often more engaging, whether you're using it for just organic purposes or also for ads. I ran an SEO and PPC agency for over 10 years, and I saw often the most amateur looking ads performed best, especially on social media, because people care about that authenticity. The other thing I would say in terms of using the same resources more than once is use the same video and just shorten it or crop it as needed for these different platforms. We're actually in a very exciting time right now, because this might be the first time in history that you can use the same format across every major social media platform. Reels on Instagram and Facebook, TikTok videos, YouTube Shorts, even Reddit. You can use the same format of video across all those different platforms and get results that just multiply from the same exact, the one thing that you created. So I think there's never been an easier or cheaper time to invest in video.
Yeah, I think that is so telling. I think people, like you say, like that authenticity now. And I'm not a marketer, but I'm a consumer, and I appreciate that kind of authentic look as opposed to something that is very stylized and high quality video production, because it leads you to question the authenticity. Yeah, I would agree with that as a consumer. Okay, another question is, how can marketers leverage customer feedback and reviews to improve their products or services? Neil, do you have any thoughts on the data front here?
Yeah, just thinking. So a lot of the, so you're getting, I'll use an example, a recent example, in that how a trend in the reviews and feedback came around the top, what is a differentiator around the product, and that continuously came through in the reviews. So with a bit more thought and ideation, it's like, well, how do we elevate that? Because that's a clear differentiator that we probably not really, as a brand, we're not really leveraging. And it just makes your communication a lot more tighter, taking that insight and then putting it into a campaign that really focuses on that one thing that comes through. So I think the key thing, but to get to that point though, you need to have those data points. You need to be able to put it into a database and run some scans on it to figure out what is that one word that's coming through, whether it's positive or negative, because you could also get the counter where it's negative, right? And how do you pivot or change or adopt or improve on the product based on that feedback? So it's really, but it starts with centralizing and getting that data into a place where it can be, I guess, visualized. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any other thoughts on kind of leveraging customer feedback? Kyle, so you want to jump in there?
Yeah, you saw I unmuted. I love using customer feedback for the product side as well as for the marketing side. Neil talked a little bit about the marketing side. You can quote people in your ads or in your social media posts or in your blog posts. Quote them. Quote your customers, either directly where you actually attribute it to them with quote marks, or indirectly where you just use the same phrasing. Often customer feedback is really a cheat code that tells you how they're thinking about it. Use those words in your copywriting. It's such a great thing to do and highly effective. Another thing you can do, so that's really when it comes to positive feedback typically. Another thing you can do is look at negative feedback. Often it's harder to implement negative feedback when it comes to improving your product. Everyone has a complaint about every product they use, even the ones that they love. They will often have problems with it, right? But everyone has a different problem with it. So if you go through your product and try to fix every complaint people have, this is a mistake a lot of startups make. You end up pulled in too many different directions and you're not focusing on the right thing. What actually works often better than that is looking at the negative feedback that your competitors are getting. What do people hate about your biggest competitor? And how can you focus a spotlight on the fact that you do it the opposite way?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Sort of a similar question has just come in. Do you see marketing, sales, and customer experience in amalgamating in the future? That kind of links into what you were just saying there.
Sorry, did you say sales and marketing?
So it says, do you see marketing, sales, and CX, which I assume is customer experience, amalgamating in the future?
I would say, from my perspective, I'd love to hear the other folks because I've been talking a lot. But from my perspective, amalgamating is probably unlikely. But I do think it's incredibly important for those teams to link up and share data and have conversations. Frankly, it doesn't happen often enough. This is one of the advantages that startups have, is sometimes these folks are the same folks, or they wear a lot of hats, but as a company gets bigger, they become more and more siloed. Sometimes actually pretty much always they have different KPIs that they're going after. And sometimes there can be political aspects, hierarchy, people's egos get involved, and those teams just don't share as much data as they should, when their insights within those three different areas are actually extremely important to each other. So I don't think it's likely that they're going to amalgamate, but I do think it's very important for them to have strong communication.
And clearly, can I jump in on that one as well?
Yeah, of course.
Lani was also quite passionate about this topic. Yeah, I think what's interesting is that working separately, these silos harm growth, and that's what Kyle was getting at in terms of where startups have the advantage, because people don't really have those hats. But I think this is why we actually cover this in the course. We have a whole module that's designed to cross-team collaboration, realizing and aligning a team around data. So instead of giving everybody their separate little silo with their separate little metrics to go and chase one result, actually using the right data to align broad sets of team members and help them work together in an effective way to influence one result. And I think the smartest companies are figuring that out. How do they facilitate that cross-functional growth? So I think we will see tighter alignment, or at least successful companies will be able to demonstrate tighter alignment between those functions.
Yeah, I might
Blimey,
just add to that
yeah,
too, Claire. I
yeah, go on.
completely agree with that. And I think we're already seeing it in some places, not amalgamating, but they're working closer together. I think, to your point, Kyle, I don't think they'll ever necessarily amalgamate, although some companies are doing it, particularly smaller companies. And to your point, Claire, startups have that kind of benefit, I guess, of being able to, you know, if they're smaller and more nimble, it's a bit easier. Whereas culture, I think, really impacts this overall. So if you've got a bigger company that's set in its ways, it's going to be really tricky to break that culture. But definitely that's already happening, particularly from a CX perspective. I think CX is almost within the marketing team or at the moment as well, or kind of working together. So yeah, I've seen that with clients anyway.
Yeah, Ben, who asked the question, said, thanks. It's very frustrating, and we're working towards more buy-in from others when it comes to digital marketing. Is that quite a common problem that a lot of people have?
That's really interesting, because I wonder if people just aren't seeing the results that they need potentially, because I think with a buy-in, I don't know who the people are that Ben's talking about, different stakeholders within a business, but generally to get buy-in, you need to show people results, I would have thought. But yeah, from that, you know, having, I guess one thing would be trialing, working together as a team on one project and just have a test project and to prove that something's going to work would be my advice on that one. Not knowing the exact background, but I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah, we've just got a few minutes left if anybody wants any last minute questions. There's one in here that I just want to expand on a little bit. I think we covered earlier about the career direction somebody would have if they got experience in a predominantly sales working background. But it made me think, like, what in your experiences are people's backgrounds? What sort of people do come into digital marketing in your experience? I don't know who wants to start that one.
Well, I'll try to answer the question around sales, because I think it's an interesting one. In that you have to play to your strength, right? So if you understand sales and if you understand the purchasing decision, really enter at that stage and work your way up to understand the intent. So I call it digital sales, which is because that's really the performance marketing piece comes in. So slot in there where the person is making the decision online around the sale, and then move yourself up into, okay, well, what does it mean for someone to really understand consideration, how they're thinking? So think about the consumer behavior then leading up to the sale, and then continue that journey, and then you could find yourself in brand, and then you have that full map. So that's the one thing. And then the other question around what types of people, I use the story a lot. One of my best data analysts is an illustrator, or was an illustrator, and with no technical analytics background, but he just had a passion for it. But I guess how he saw visualization plays to his strength. And he had a passion for analytics, but not in a formal way. And he moved through the career into now like one of the best data analysts I've seen, coming out of from illustration, which is an interesting one. So I don't think there's a one size fits all or one specific area.
That is quite a career journey. Yeah, Kyle, see you in.
Yeah, I just want to encourage folks that, as Neil alluded to, you know, your past experiences, no matter how departed they might seem from marketing, will often play a pretty big role. Because what happens is you end up with this unique combination of skills that other folks don't have. Anyone can learn either social media or Google Ads or whatever they want, but they're not going to have your same life experience from before that point. And so your personality and your experience combined with that skill is really what becomes your unique selling proposition. When it comes to sales in particular, I also want to mention that as you climb the ladder and become a marketing leader, if that's something that you want, sales actually becomes very important internally in order to get buy-in and resources to proceed with the projects that you want, the initiatives you want. The soft skills around sales are incredibly important. They can also be helpful to sell your team. Folks who might be reporting to you still need to be motivated. And sales is really all about motivating someone to take an action. And so, even though you may not be in sales anymore, those are skills that will really serve you well later in your career in marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of skills in this Career Accelerator I wish I had. Some amazing transferable skills. Unfortunately, we're kind of coming towards the end, but I just want to remind everybody that if you use the link that's in the chat, we have got that discount off the program fee that's valid until the 5th of June. So if you click on that link and book in a call, you will qualify for that discount today. I just want to thank you all for such an insightful discussion there. Can we just end by, I don't know, just a brief kind of top tip? What's your closing top tip or final words of wisdom? Let's go around. Start with Claire.
Putting me on the spot here, Claire. I think my top tip is that the demand for digital marketing skills right now is someone who has qualitative, quantitative, and technical skills, as well as those human skills to influence and lead internally. So if you are considering a move into digital marketing, everyone's background, as I think Carl put that beautifully, you bring a unique flavor to your marketing career. But if you can just focus on whether you can build out all of those qualitative, quantitative, technical, and human skills, I think you're setting yourself up for a very powerful career in digital marketing.
That's it. Kyle, any last words of wisdom?
Sure. I would say try to approach everything with a growth mindset and with curiosity in mind. Marketing is present everywhere around us, from product packaging to political campaigns and everything in between. And there are just so many things to be inspired by and learn from if you approach it from that perspective.
Fantastic. Neil, same question to you.
Yeah, I'm always making intentional efforts to tell team members to remove your bias, because we all have bias. No matter what we try and say, we all have a certain bias, and I think that's a form of collaboration and having that curiosity. So if you have that curiosity, you will slowly but surely realize that your opinion is not the only right opinion. There are other ways of doing things based on different approaches and skill sets that other people bring. So removing that bias is critical to break down those silos.
And Lani, I'll give you the final words of wisdom.
Thanks, Claire. I might actually follow on that theme from Kyle and Neil, because I feel like the curiosity is so important. And don't just take what everyone says around you as gospel, because not all marketers know what they're doing. Half of us are faking it till we make it anyway, right? But ultimately, just go and ask the question why. So if you're in a meeting, say, why are we doing this? Is it really that important, or should we be doing something else? One of the biggest fall shorts that I see in the industry is when clients brief us on a particular problem that they've got, and actually that's not the problem that they should be solving. At the end of the day, it should be something completely different that will solve that problem as well, but is going to solve 10 other problems for them at the same time. So I think really just question why you're doing it, why is it important? And I think Claire touched earlier on, working towards one objective, and it's really just setting up your objectives as a wider team and then working towards those objectives and constantly asking, are we doing the right thing to reach that objective? Is this going to help us reach that objective? I think that would be my main tip for everyone as well. Thanks.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to leave here and go and cancel some meetings, especially on Fridays. But thank you so much for everybody for coming. Remember, this is the first in a two-part series, so there is a second event coming up soon. Remember that there's all the links in the chat to book calls and to download the brochure with more information and to get that amazing discount as well. So thank you very much. It was great to spend some time with you all today and to learn a lot about digital marketing.